Well, this is kind of an exciting day to have One Heart, One Mind with us. So I thank you for being here. Those that are with One Heart, raise your hand just so we know. Look at that. Yay. Yay. Thank you for coming. This is really fun. This is fun. All right. So we're going to talk about inner and outer peace today. I'm going to talk about stuff that's going to rile you up. That outer stuff that kind of gets to you. And then she'll bring you down. So you take it inside. So this first quote, I just want to make mention. You'll look at, it's provided by ChatGPT. Now, I have to tell you a story, a real brief story, is that I'm in the process of writing a book. And so I've been using it a lot to help me, design it, how get to the right words, create processes, the whole thing. Anyway, it's getting to know me. This is kind of weird. It's getting to know me and know the language that I want to use. And so I took some other paragraphs that I had. I threw it in there and I said, give me the essence of what I'm trying to say. Here's what it came up with, which is perfect for today. So let me read it. True peace begins within. When we cultivate inner tranquility through mindfulness and self-awareness, we can extend that peace outward, transforming our interactions and the world around us. Inner peace is the seed from which outer peace grows, and together they create a harmonious existence. Isn't that amazing?
Well said.
Yeah, well said. So today, what Reverend Michelle and myself are trying to do is to have you have the tools to hold that peace inside you when the outer world doesn't feel like it. Anybody experiencing that? Okay, good. I'll ask the question again. The thing is that all the outer activity of the world, in my opinion, and I feel it, is disrupting the peace sometimes that's inside me. I have to sometimes turn it off. Anybody else turning it off lately? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so today I'm going to have you look at that outer part that's affecting you, and we're going to do something that's kind of fun. So if you don't have a pen, make sure you do and raise your hand when I ask. And just look at it as to what's really triggering us, what's getting in our way. And not be afraid of it, but just to recognize it. Because part of the work that we do is recognizing where the pain comes from or the upset comes from, and then what are the tools that we use. So I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit here, but how many feel difficult, that it's difficult when everything is falling around us it's out of control? How do you feel difficult at the difficulty of it? It's hard. It's hard, and it's confusing, and it's upsetting, it's irritating, and for me, it's frustrating because I have no control over it, none whatsoever. So I have to look at it a whole different way, and then I have to, and if you've been in this teaching for a long time, you realize, please give that to Victoria. Give that to Victoria. Thank you. You realize that because we know this teaching, we have to shift. We have to change. We have to look at it from a spiritual point of view, opposed to just, this is the way, this is the truth. Do you know what I'm saying? We have to shift our whole self. So today is for you to remember that you have spiritual wisdom within you. You're never alone. And that today, hopefully, will give you some tools that you can use during the week and the months coming up to hold that inside you. I know for myself, I teach a little class on Wednesdays that, and I'll be asking her a couple questions. But one thing I find is that I get revved up during the week, and this little tiny class that we have puts me back in place where I need to be, which is stepping back, looking at what's going on within me, looking at how am I reacting outside, and then do I really want to do that? So Ernest Holmes says, peace is always at the center of our own soul. Peace is already there. We don't have to go get it. We don't have to go find it. It's already there. And so that teaches us oneness, peace, and harmony if we access it. If we don't access it, I know what I do. Do you know what you do? What do? You get mad. You get upset. You hold yourself out there instead of going, well, how do I want to respond from this? And so I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So Science Mind says this. It says, what we focus on grows. It's the law of attraction in action. Everybody gets that, right? This is the critical part, the next couple sentences. If we use the power of our thought to focus on all that is wrong in the world, we will experience more of what is wrong in the world. It falls apart. And yet we know if we focus and use the power of our thought to imagine peace, P-E-A-C-E, we will start seeing those pieces around us and turn the peace which is then revealed to us. So knowing that it's like this and we know that we can change that and we focus in a different direction, things change. So we're going to do something fun today. It's a little different, and you're going to get what I call a scorecard. So we're going to hand that out to you. If you do not have a pin, please raise your hand, and we'll get you a pin in addition to giving you a scorecard. Only hold the scorecard. Hi, Dee. Good to see you back there. Did you bring your puppy? No. Oh. Oh. We need pins over here. Right over here. So don't fill anything out yet. We're going to do this a certain way. Got it? Got enough? These guys over here need 3 over here. There you go. Good. Good. So first thing you have to do is put your name on it. Put your name on it, because this is your scorecard. You're not going to share it with anybody else. This is your scorecard. Now, when you're ready, look back at me. Back at me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to briefly read these off. I don't want you to be analyzing how you feel. I want you to be truthful with yourself. How do you respond? How do you respond to these hot buttons? Because they are out there. And there's no evaluation here. There's no judgment about it. Just be honest with yourself. Okay? You ready? Yeah. As soon as I read it, write whatever number comes down. Personal relationships. I have conflict with family, friends, or a partner. Next, workplace stress. And for those retired people, retired stress. Deadlines. Too many things to do. Difficulty with people, colleagues. Write it down. Next one, financial worries. Not enough. Concerned about money. You have too much debt. Financial stability is a big one. Write down whatever comes. If it's a 0, that's great. If it's a 5 or a 10, that's okay too. Health issues. Physical or mental health challenges. Mine would be a 10 right now. Global events, wars, natural disasters, political instability. Is that getting to you? It might be, I would think so. How about just driving your car? That person that cut you off, right? And environmental concerns. I think that's a 10 too. Anxiety about the climate change and pollution. You skipped 8. Oh, did I skip 8? We'll go back. Oh, that's an important one too. Number 8. Okay. Yeah, I did. Social media. Oh, gosh. Well, let's go back to 6. Social media, unlike negativity, comparison, and cyberbullying. So sorry. Then we'll go to 8. I did 7. We'll do it again. Traffic and commuting. I said, the guy that cut you off. Okay. 8, unresolved past traumas. Mine used to be a 10. I'm about a 5 or 0. Environmental concerns. And the last one is self-doubt. You have self-doubt within you. So now I want you to add those numbers up, 0, 5, and 10. Don't put 7, 3, and 5, or, the odd numbers, just 0, 5, and 10. Add them up. It's okay. There's no judgment here. Everybody got it? The last thing I want you to do is I want you to circle anyone that's a 10. There's a 10 on there. Now, we're going to evaluate it just a tiny, tiny bit. The first part of this is there's no judgment. Oh, it's okay. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be a concern. Just take it, the value for what it is. That is all. And the second thing is, if you have 50 or more, I want you to see a practitioner or a minister and get prayer. And the third part, if you have a 10, anybody have a 10, don't raise your hand. If anybody has a 10, please get support. Do not hang out by yourself. Let us support you through whatever you're going through, okay? That's really all this is about. So, you can just put your card down, your pen down, take a look at me again. This is for you, not for everybody else. The thing that I want to say, to me, that's most important about this list is this, I call it stuff, is out there. It's out there. We all know what that is, right? Yes, we know what that is? And it will always be out there. It's kind of like people say to me, but you're so busy. I said, I'll always be busy. I will always be busy. But if you tell me you want to call me, you want to see me, you want to talk to me, I will make time. The same thing about all those things that are out there. If we take the time to look at it and just say, okay, what is it I need to know about it and do about it? Guess what happens? Something starts to happen that resolves it. So I put together, looks like 6 questions, and these might be helpful. I don't want you to show those until I'm ready. Is that when we get in those situations where we don't know if it's truth, if there's something going on, is that we have to ask ourselves certain questions. Now, I'll give you the questions again. These are hard to read, so I will read them for you. Wait, that's the wrong one. Here we are. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves questions like, can I pause for a moment and look at this a different way? Can I pause? I'm trying to learn how to pause, how to step back, so that I'm not so caught up in the emotion of it. That's number 1. Is it true? And do I trust the source? There's a lot of stuff out there right now that may or may not be true. So we have to look at it. We have to evaluate it. We have to pay attention to it. We can't be afraid of it. Just say, is that true? Oh, let me think about that. Is it affecting you personally right now? The answer is yes. Okay. Or can you do anything about it in a peaceful way? Sometimes it's just paying attention. It's like I'm going to have knee surgery, I think in December. I'm paying a lot of attention to that knee right now. I know that if I don't pay attention, I might have to do it sooner. So instead, I'm seeing somebody that's teaching me the exercises I need to do. I'm in swim classes. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing the things that are necessary. So when I do go have surgery, I will be okay. I will have the right numbers. My legs will line up instead of being bow-legged. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. I'm just paying attention. The next one is, how do I respond? How do you respond? I know that I have this trigger that I sometimes get really angry, and I have to watch that. So it's not a bad thing. It's just oh, do I really want to be that way? So knowing that. And the other thing is, if it's not true, then what is the truth? Then what is the truth? Look for the truth. There's so much misinformation out there right now. Look for the truth, because the truth will set you free. That's the bottom line. It'll set you free. And if you don't see the truth, I always focus on what I think the real truth is, and I feel better. I have this feeling like, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. And then the last thing is, what wisdom have I gained? Through every trial, situation, list, we learn something. Now, I used to have to beat myself up 3 times before I would learn something. Today, I'm saying you can only do it once. You don't have to beat yourself up 3 times for making a mistake. Yet we just make mistakes, okay? But now stop and go, okay, what did I learn from that? And what can I do to change maybe the next time this happens? Okay? So I said I would give you what I think is a way for us to bring ourselves back to center. And that's by this one thing called prayer. Prayer, treatment, affirmations, those things. So on the back of your card is that. And it's called the Peace Prayer, and you probably know this, but I'm going to actually do it with you. I'm going to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to read it to you. And I want you, this is closing my part of the program, but just to take it in heart, take it into your heart and breathe through it. So whatever's going on with you, whether you got a 10, you got a 5, or you're all zeros, just breathe through it. The Peace Prayer. Divine Spirit, I am an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, I sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, let there be hope. Where there is darkness, let there be light. Where there is sadness, let us bring joy. O Divine One, know that I'm here on the planet not to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in the giving that we receive, it is in the pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is the living a life of peace and love now that we experience eternal life, now and forever. Amen.
Wow. I can feel that in here. Let's take a breath. I was sitting there thinking about, and for some reason, Reverend Alice Bandy popped into my head. She was my first dean. She passed away a few years ago. But I remember sitting in class with her one day, and she said, one of the things I don't like about being a minister is that people always want you to say stuff. And if I'm honest, that's probably one of the things I do like about being a minister is I get to say stuff. So here I am in front of you saying stuff. And I first want to say that One Heart, One Mind is so grateful that Om has invited us back into your home again. Thank you for that. We're so grateful. We feel like we're becoming extended family, and we all really look forward to coming up here. So thank you for that. So peace. Ah, wow. Peace. You know, when I think about peace, I feel this spacious openness. Like, I was listening to Joe's song, and he was relating love and peace, and I was thinking that peace is this big open space that can contain all of those aspects of the divine, those high vibing aspects of the divine that we talk about all the time. You intelligence, order, beauty, awe, joy, bliss, love. Peace has a space for that. It just holds it so beautifully. So play with me for a minute. I know you've already kind of played with Reverend Suzette, but play with me for a minute. Take a breath. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or just soften your gaze. And go down deep into your heart space. Just focus on that area around your heart. Deep breath. And I invite you to generate the feeling of peace. It's already there. We are the presence of peace. And if you have trouble doing that, think of a time when you were at deep peace. Maybe it was in nature, standing in front of the ocean, watching a sunset, in deep meditation, listening to music. Just feel the resonance of peace within you. Can you feel that? And I invite you to say with me, I am a center of God's peace. I am a center of God's peace. And from that resonance, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to look at someone that's next to you, near you, and make eye contact. You're going to have to come out of make eye contact with someone. Look them in the eye. I can look at you. And say, you are a center of God's peace. Of God's peace. Now look at someone else. Look at them in the eye and say, you are a center of God's peace. So we had the resonance within, and now we are radiating that out all around us. Can you feel it in the room? It was already pretty high from all the praying that Suzette had us doing. But can you feel it? Now please say with me, we are a center of God's peace. That's big, right? Whew. So this is the peace that I think that St. Paul was talking about when he wrote a letter to the Philippians in the New Testament. And he said, and the peace that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds. Will guard your hearts and your minds. He didn't say, well, once you wrap your head around this idea of peace and you really get a handle on that, then you'll experience peace. Now, he went right to the vibe. He went right to the feeling of peace. That's what will guard our hearts and our minds. That's what will bring us into that resonance of peace that we can radiate out all around us. He knew that the things in the outer world do not get the final say. It's what's here in our hearts. And that when we stand in that resonance of peace, it doesn't matter what the conditions or the circumstance of our life are, that we will feel that peace that surpasses all understanding. I love that idea. I really do. And he also knew, and I think this is kind of what he was saying in essence, is that the language of the universe is not English. It's not Spanish. It's not Japanese. It's not Farsi. It's frequency. The language of the universe is frequency. Everything has an energetic frequency. And peace has this high vibe, this high frequency, and we can stand in that. And I also looked up to see what Ernest Holmes had to say about it, and he said that peace is that inner calm that cannot be disturbed. And he said that the peace of God cannot be disturbed because there's nothing to disturb it. That you cannot disturb the peace of God. And I noticed that neither St. Paul nor Holmes said, if you are in this state of peace, this frequency or level of the pieces that surpasses all understanding. Nothing that happens in the outside world will ever happen to you again. You know, you'll never be frustrated or anger, or you'll never feel hurt, you'll never grieve. They didn't say that. What they said is that you will be able to take the hand of frustration, take the hand of anger, take the hand of hurt or grief or any of the other things that we experience on our personality level and say, here, come with me. We will transform this at this higher radiance and level of peace, this higher resonance of peace. That love and that peace and these higher vibes can walk us through being human. And we have to encounter these things as human beings. That's what it's all about. We see the contrast, but we don't have to stay here. We don't have to resonate in this. And the things that happen that we're human things that we walk through, they happen at our personality and our ego level. That's okay. But when we are grounded in the infinite self, in the divine self, when we're resonating there, we can encounter any of those things and it'll be okay. We were at Renetta's party the other day, and the topic of my mother came up, my mother Lanita. And she is one of the only people, well, not the only people, but she is one of the main people in my life that I watched do this. She could sit in the things that happened. I mean, she raised 7 kids. She went through it, right? So, yeah, she was, and all over the board. And yet, everything was always okay. It's going to be okay. Because she always had that underlying resonance of a stability that comes with that high vibe of peace. She always had that within her. I always saw that in her. And I think that the more our thoughts and our feelings habitually relate to that inner wisdom, that infinite self that is our true self, the more we can look at everything that happens and say, well, what can I learn from this? What is this trying to show me? How do I shift to move into something better? What kind of a jumping off place is this for me to move into that higher resonance of life? You know, and I really think that's the case, is that if we live in our infinite self more than we live in our personality and our ego self, then everything really is that vibe of all is well. All is well. I read this story, this great story that I think kind of illustrates this. It's a story about a Dutch physicist named Christian Huygens. I think I'm saying that's right. It's Huygen. Anyway, he invented the pendulum clock. And he one day, the story goes, at least this is the way that I read it, that one day he had some minor illness. And he ended up lying in bed all day. And he had 2 pendulum clocks on his wall. And he started the pendulum clocks off, and they weren't moving at the same rate. They weren't moving together. They weren't in sync. One was moving, one was smaller, one was larger. They were moving at a different rate. And he noticed that in about 30 minutes, because he was laying there in bed and watching them all day, he noticed that in about 30 minutes they were moving in sync. And he thought, well, that's odd. So he got up and he stopped them and he started them moving again, the pendulum swinging, not in sync. Sure enough, in 30 minutes, they were moving in sync again. And he did this over and over, and every time they would come back into sync. And he didn't know what was causing it. He just called it an odd kind of sympathy. And it wasn't until about 350 years later that this odd kind of sympathy the mystery of it was solved. It turns out that as the pendulum is swinging, it puts off sound impulses. They were picked up in the wall, they were moving through the air. It's called coupled oscillation. I'm not a physicist, I don't know anything about it, but that's what it's called. And the larger pendulum, which has the strongest pulse, brings the weaker pendulum into sync with it. Wow. Well, love and peace and awe and beauty, all of these high vibe things are the larger pendulum. And when we live there, we come into sync with the larger pendulum. The wholeness of God is the larger pendulum. So that the more often we swing with that larger pendulum, the more often we're going to come into that beautiful place of coming together, of being in that. And then everything else that happens gets transformed. You know, fear gets transformed into love. Lack gets transformed into abundance. Dis-ease into our wellness and our wholeness. The lower vibration things that we encounter, that we see in the world around us, can be brought up into the high vibe of peace and of love. I just love that story. I want to swing at the high pendulum level for sure. And you know, what do we do when we do affirmative prayer? We come into our center. We connect with the God within us. And we don't have to go anywhere or do anything. It's right here. We just have to go, okay, who am I and what do I want to feel? What do I want to bring into existence? And we connect with that. We connect with that. We know our unity with that. And then we radiate it out into everything that we do and say. We speak it with our word. We walk it with our feet. We live the prayer. And in gratitude, we bring it into being. You know, that's one of the things about the law, is that we come into resonance with whatever it is that we'd like to. We individualize the universal. So the law becomes our law at the level that we identify with it. Holmes said that it becomes our law at the level that we identify with it, with the God within. And then we use it in our lives. And guess what? The highest vibe wins. The highest vibe always wins. It really is true. So we come into radiance or in resonance with whatever it is that we wish to experience in our lives, with peace, love, awe, the juiciness of life. And then we radiate that out into our world all around us, just like my mom, you know? We come into sync with that odd kind of sympathy that Huygens noticed. So, just let's play one more time. Let's take another deep breath in. And I want you to imagine yourself being the stronger pendulum, that high vibe of God. And then if you had anything on your card that Reverend Suzette had you fill out, bring that in to that high vibe. How would love see this? How would peace see this? How would beauty see this? How would order identify with this? How would the vibe of all is well see this? And then I invite you to say with me, I am a center of the frequency of God's peace. I am the center of the frequency of God's peace. We are a center of the frequency of God's peace.
We are a center of the frequency of God's peace.
Oh, and so it is.